The USA might start sanctioning China. People in Russia are trying to buy as much sugar as possible. Drone shots from Mariupol, Ukraine. Big explosion earlier today in Kiev. Civilian buildings in Mariupol, Ukraine. Fire in Chernihiv, Ukraine. Because in case they fail, this can potentially mean a third world war. Russian flamethrower launcher unacceptable for Ukraine to give up more of its territories. Using frozen assets of some Russian oligarchs to help rebuild Ukraine. The reason why Putin invaded Ukraine is...
What's up, investors? It's the Russian Dude and this is your daily update on Russian-Ukrainian war.
Earlier this week, the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, did an interview with CNN, and he said that it will be unacceptable for Ukraine to give up more of its territories. And this is the poster that was attached to the window of one of the stores in London, UK, which says that good Russian is dead Russian. Around 65% of Russians do not believe in the stock market. The USA is considering removing Russia from GPS system, but the director of Roscosmos, Dmitry Rogozin, said that Russians do not need to worry about this, because we have our own system called GLONASS. There was lots of smoke in the streets of Kiev because of fires and absence of wind. These are the consequences of military actions in Velika Danilovka, Kharkov region, Ukraine. And these are the results of missile strikes in Kharkov, Ukraine. Marauders in Ukraine continue stealing stuff from their countrymen, and for this they're being punished. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that the reason why Putin invaded Ukraine is to hide internal problems of the country.
And if you want to continue receiving such daily updates, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends or anywhere else you want. Thanks so much and let's continue.
The Moscow Stock Exchange will finally start trading this Monday, March 21st. First of all, there will be only trading with government bonds and treasuries. In the meantime, short selling will be prohibited. Next, it is assumed that the most liquid shares will be allowed to be traded. And if everything is done correctly and there is still no chaos on the Russian stock market, the shares of the rest of the companies will also be allowed to be traded. The USA might start sanctioning China in case there are discrepancies between two countries. People in Russia are trying to buy as much sugar as possible, and the only reason why they think there is a deficit of sugar, it is because they think there is a deficit of sugar. There have been many volunteers arriving in Ukraine to fight Russia, and as of recently, some of them are now trying to escape Ukraine because they thought fighting Russians will be easy. It is assumed that the president of China, Xi Jinping, is assessing how US sanctions affect Russia, and the reason he is doing this is for potentially creating defense mechanisms in the future against sanctions against China in case it decides to invade Taiwan. For the very first time in war history, Russia uses hypersonic missiles in Ukraine. It is reported that these are extremely accurate weapons and they were used to destroy military warehouses. A woman in Russia was complaining that people slashed her tires because she put Z markings on her car, obviously. This is the video from Russia where you can see people waiting in line to get sugar. This guy is doing silent protest in Russia by using his grandfather's coat. And it basically says that this coat belonged to his grandfather, who was a participant in the World War II. Most recent Russian astronauts who arrived to the International Space Station were wearing colors of Ukraine. The average prices for ingredients for one of the most common Russian dish called borscht, which is by the way Ukrainian dish, has increased by 56%. Previously, Russia claimed that there were bioweapons on the territory of Ukraine. And as of recently, the United Nations said that they did their own research and they found no evidence of these bioweapons. As of today, there are 7 NATO members who said that they would directly support peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. And these countries are Slovenia, Czech Republic, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and most recently Denmark. A couple of weeks ago, Visa and MasterCard announced that they will no longer be operational on the territory of Russia. And last week, the Central Bank of Georgia said that they will not accept these cards on the territory of Georgia. These are the most recent drone shots from Mariupol, Ukraine. This woman from Belarus came to visit Georgia and she said that immigration officers were extremely unfriendly towards her. And here you can see a small poster on one of the stores in America saying that you should not discriminate individual Russians. Because as it is said right here, the 50-year-old babushka who is simply selling cakes did not personally participate in invading of Ukraine. Some students in Russia put Z markings on doors of their dormitory and the landlord was not very happy with this. The president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, is judging double standards of the West. He is saying that all the Western media is now showing pictures and videos from Ukraine, but none of them did anything even close to when Serbia was bombed by NATO in 1999. Men who are trying to leave Mariupol, Ukraine are stopped and checked if they have Nazi tattoos. Water pipes in one of the buildings in Kharkov, Ukraine were destroyed, and these are the results. The consequences of missile strikes in Kharkov, Ukraine. And these are the pictures of destroyed school also in Kharkov, Ukraine. This is how one of the civilian buildings in Mariupol, Ukraine looks like. There has been a very big fire in Chernigov, Ukraine. This is the video of Russian flamethrower launcher called Solntsepek, which is blazing sun, in action. And these are the consequences of Solntsepek missile strikes. The negotiations between Russia and Ukraine are getting harder and they might take weeks to be completed. The European Union is considering using frozen assets of some Russian oligarchs to help rebuild Ukraine. There are anti-war protests in Armenia supporting Russia. One of the biggest airports in Moscow, Russia, Sheremetyevo, has sent 40% of its employees home. The General Secretary of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, says that the alliance is planning to increase its military support to Ukraine. European Union now also bans 3 Belarusian banks from SWIFT system. These graphs show how daily active users of various social media platforms has changed after bans were implemented in Russia. For example, Instagram has lost around 5 million daily active users and Facebook lost around 3 million. This is the video from the city of Irpin, Ukraine. The mayor of Kiev, Vitaly Klitschko, is recording this video to show the consequences of military strikes in the city. David Beckham has given his Instagram account with more than 70 million followers to this Ukrainian doctor. This video is from Israel, showing people supporting Ukraine. Pavel Slobodchikov, the assistant of ex-mayor of Kherson, Ukraine, was killed. Vladimir Saldo, who was the ex-mayor of Kherson, was supporting Russia. And as a result, it is still unknown who exactly killed Pavel Slobodchenko. There was a big explosion earlier today in Kiev, Ukraine. And this is the mall in Kiev, Ukraine that was caught on fire. One Russian family tried to cross Ukrainian-Moldovan border. And when immigration officers gave their passports back, the passport of a 1-year-old girl said that this was a kid of a murderer. Last week, a woman came out with anti-war poster during prime time on the main propagandistic channel in Russia. And the official response of this TV channel is that she did it because she was paid by the British embassy. As of today, Meta is officially recognized as extremist organization in Russia. Therefore, the usage of Facebook and Instagram is completely prohibited on its territory. One guy in Russia put a Z marking on his car, and this is the response of his neighbors. Due to most recent events on Ukraine, the downloads of crypto apps has skyrocketed. And these are the countries where the use of crypto assets is either regulated or banned. As of today, the majority of Russian banks will no longer be accepted by one of the biggest crypto exchanges, Binance. According to the United Nations, during the first 3 weeks of war, there are approximately 2,246 Ukrainian civilian casualties. A rocket booster has fallen inside a civilian garage in Kharkov, Ukraine. Some people in Beirut support Russia. Zelensky always says that he is ready for direct talks with Putin, but he also says that these negotiations must be treated very carefully, because in case they fail, this can potentially mean a third world war. It is still unconfirmed whether this is true or not, but it has been reported that Russia is planning to mobilize 17 and 18-year-olds. The people of Kherson, Ukraine, are protesting against the Russian army in their city. A Russian train in Kazakhstan has been spotted bearing Z markings. There are anti-war protests in Hamburg, Germany, supporting Ukraine. Mikhail Lysenko, the deputy mayor of Dnieper, Ukraine, said that every single Chechen Muslim soldier will be buried inside pig skins. This car, which belongs to the embassy of Russia in Israel, was vandalized. France has frozen the assets of the Central Bank of Russia worth of 22 billion euros. It has also frozen the assets of Russian citizens worth of 150 billion euros. In the beginning of February, only 13% of Belarus citizens supported military actions of Russia in Ukraine. And as of recently, it has been a new independent research which showed that now only 3% of Belarus citizens support the war. As of today, already 6 countries have opened criminal cases against war crimes of Russia. The wife of ex-government official of Ukraine, Igor Kotvitsky, has tried to leave the country with $28 million and 1.3 million euros in cash. Some people in Bulgaria support Russia and they want their country to leave NATO. And these are the protests in Italy against sending weapons to Ukraine. Now, these are people in Turkey who are also protesting against NATO. Some of you might not know this, but in the past, Vladimir Zelensky was a comedian, and one of his most famous TV shows was about him becoming the president of Ukraine. And last week, Netflix added the first season of this TV show with subtitles. American TV host Bill Maher says that that current Russian discrimination is a form of racism. As some of you might know, Russia was able to avoid default by making its March payments. But there are way more payments coming in the future, especially in April.
Thank you so much for your attention, stay safe and see you next time.